We are back in the lounge, the Gym Leader Chat Lounge, for episode 6 of the podcast. My name is Benjamin Morse, and I am once again joined by my co-host, John Patterson.
Hello.
Today we've got a fun episode. We're going to talk about our Full Grip Games League recap, of course, and both me, John, Tony, we all played in a couple different tournaments this week on webcam as well as in person, so we'll go over those as well. And then we will talk about some new card reveals from Ninja Spinner, the upcoming Japanese set featuring Mega Grid Ninja that was recently revealed. And before we do that, just want to say happy Pokemon Week, John.
Happy Pokemon Week, Ben. Always exciting time in the Pokemon sphere to be a part of this hobby. Yeah, Pokemon Week coming up this next Friday. So they have some new, tend to have some new reveals, some exciting stuff. Check out your local shop, see what they're doing, because a lot of locals will have some fun with that. So yeah, happy Pokemon Day to you. Happy Pokemon Day to our viewers.
That's right. Yeah, I think they've said there's like there's usually like a Pikachu promo or something that they give out at leagues for participating stores. And then, yeah, on Friday, Pokemon Day, February 27th, there's going to be the Pokemon Presents, which is their, like Nintendo Direct style presentation where they announce all the news for the upcoming year. We'll probably see some new game reveals, new Pokemon Pocket content, new guys for Pokemon Unite, all the good stuff, and probably not much for the TCG because the broader audience does not care that much about the TCG.
No, you're always waiting during those presents to the very end, that little sliver that you get for that TCG content.
That's right. We just want a little crumb, but I don't know about you, but I'm a huge fan of the games as well. Like, I'm obviously more invested in the TCG, but I've played every single mainline Pokemon video game since they've come out, starting with Gold and Silver was my first one. I was given a Game Boy Color and Silver version when I was like 3 or 4 years old, before I could even really read very well. One of my favorite memories of that, I'm on a tangent, but one of my favorite memories of that is like, I remember my team being like a Feraligatr that was like level 80 or something, and then my next best Pokemon was a Togepi that was like level 60 that I had somehow given an Everstone to, so it just never evolved, but it had my favorite attack, Metronome, and so I had like my Feraligatr and my Togepi were was like basically my whole team for the silver version. But yeah, do you care much about the video games, John? What's your history with the video games?
Yeah, I definitely played them a lot more back in the day, but I've kept up and played, here and there. I've got the newest game. I still haven't. I think I mentioned before on the podcast when we were talking about the Tarragon card reveal that I still hadn't completely finished the game yet. So just more of a time issue than anything. But yeah, I like the games. I started playing back in Pokemon Emerald was my first game. So yeah, I remember I picked up that game, and then I think my mom took me to like the park with a friend, and I basically ignored that friend and like played Pokemon the whole time because it was my first exposure to like playing the games in the franchise, and I was like, whoa, this is the coolest thing ever. So yeah, definitely some good memories with the games there, and kind of what got me more into Pokemon than and then eventually made it to the TCG side of things. So yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, they announced that Fire Red and Leaf Green version are coming to the Switch, which is cool. One of my favorite, main series games. Probably my most replayed game because it's so easy to replay. Still have it. It's in my drawer right over here. Yeah, that game's super fun. $20 on the eShop this Friday. I'm excited to pick that up. But yeah, do you have any predictions or wishes for anything they'd announce, or do you just like, whatever happens?
Yeah, I just kind of go into it excited for anything. I always like the starters to me are always like the most exciting thing. So if we can get a sneak peek at that, that'd be really cool. Um, yeah, I'm patient, so I'll wait for whatever it is, even if we only just get like a little sliver or something. That's just we'll know by the end of the year or whenever the game's coming out what things are there. So it's just and from here to when the game releases is just an exciting season to kind of theory craft and yeah. be ready for what's to come. I don't know. What are you looking forward to in these games, Ben?
Yeah, I'm excited to see what's revealed. Like, I think it's heavily rumored that the Generation 10 games and like maybe the starters will be announced because it is the 30th anniversary of Pokemon, so that's a big deal. So they want to have, a big announcement, and that would be a big one. The 10th generation of Pokemon, brand new starters, things like that. And I know a lot of the content or like, the back end stuff was leaked a couple months ago. I don't know if you were aware of that much. But like a ton of like the data was leaked, and there's maps and the names of the games like hypothetically or rumored to be leaked. So I'm interested to see how true those things are, how good it looks. I've kind of learned to temper my expectations when it comes to Pokemon because they're never gonna do everything that you want them to do. They're gonna give you the bare minimum. The fact that we're just now getting Fire Red and Leaf Green, on the virtual console after, this game came out like 20 years ago. It's kind of ridiculous, but that's just how Pokemon operates. In an ideal world, they just drop everything from the Game Boy Advance games on and earlier into like one package that you buy for like $30, on the eShop. Like that would be, my dream Pokemon Day reveal, and has online capabilities. You can trade with friends, like things like that. And I know Andrew has talked about this on his podcast as well, but he's like, he's always saying like Pokemon needs to go back to pixel games and, forget the 3D. And, I would honestly love to see that. If you've seen any of like the HD 2D games from like Dragon Quest or like games like Octopath Traveler. Are you familiar with these games?
Yeah, just kind of different. What are they? JRPG is the style of game. Yeah, 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 for sure.
They're like just the art style. It's like a modern take on a pixel based game, and they just look amazing. So like, and Pokemon would just look really cool in pixel. All the best Pokemon art is from the early pixel days. Nostalgia heads. Whatever. We can move on. This is a TCG podcast.
No, no, it's no. That's fine. I do want to say one thing because, like, you brought up the 2D and the 3D thing. Like, the 3D is great to be immersed in the world, and it's like the games have come such a long way in that respect. But I don't know if you've seen some of the art has come out for the like the 2D art version of like the megas that have released, and some of the megas that like I thought didn't really look that great in game. Their 2D artwork that they have for them, like their official 2D artwork, looks like so much better. And it kind of you kind of forget like the beauty of the 2D there. Yeah, that's something I definitely miss at
Yeah.
times.
Yeah. I
So,
just pulled this up. This is Octopath Traveler 2. This is what I mean by games that are called HD
mhm.
2D. It's like all pixel sprite based, but in like kind of like a semi 3D environment and stuff like that. But like imagine a Pokemon game that looked like this. It would just, I don't know. It would look sick in my opinion.
For sure, for sure.
Anyways, we can get off
All right, I
our
guess well,
soapbox.
I guess we'll talk about card stuff now.
Yeah, I guess we'll talk about card stuff. If you have, I mean, I do want to hear from you guys. Like, do you guys care about the video games in the comments? Let us know. What are you excited for? Because next, next podcast will be past the Pokemon Presents, so we'll cover all the news again, and maybe say what we liked or didn't, and then we'll move on from there, and hopefully have some cool news next week. Yeah, but from there we can jump into our week of GLC, which is the main reason everyone is here. And John did not show up to Full Grip Games League.
Did still kind of want to try and get some GLC in this week, so decided to play in the Turbo Blaze Trials weekly tournament, which is
Boom.
just another one of the webcam tournaments. We've talked and played in the Cardboard Warriors ones quite a bit. This was my first try at the Turbo Blaze one. It was an interesting week because not only was it just an online tournament, they had this fun bounty system they implement once in a while where you have to have there are certain requirements for your deck building, and this one was more of a kind of like a Valentine's themed one because it was a lot of requirements for you need heart cards and arrow cards and birds and bee cards. So just things themed around Valentine's Day. Fairy, high splicing fairy deck. So really cool. I saw this the day of, and I thought to myself, I'm like, all right, let me see how many of these bounties I can try and fit into one deck. And then thought about it for a while, and then just kind of realized I this is too hard, and I gave up and decided to play um, just my favorite deck in GLC, which is the Palatoad deck that I have been playing since Obsidian Flames released. The namesake of the deck being Palatoad, that Palafin, and Seismitoad, both coming out in Obsidian Flames way back when. And I saw these cards and decided that I wanted to try a low energy variant of water, so not having to have any energy acceleration on board in the Rain Dancers, just relying on your Raihan and your Aqua Patch, kind of. So, two main guys in the deck: the Palafin, um, with that main attack being the Justice Kick attack, does 210 damage for 2 energy if you switch it from the bench to the active Pokemon, and doesn't do any damage if you don't do that. So requiring that switch, but doing an absolutely massive amount of damage, knocking out most anything. Then the Seismitoad, with the Quaking Zone ability, making your opponent's Pokemon cost 1 more colorless energy to attack. So a really annoying Pokemon to have in the active. And the Echoed Voice attack doing 120 damage. And then the following turn doing 100 more damage. So it can, again, if it sits there, just one shot whatever they put in the active while requiring them to pay another energy card. Um, so the deck list kind of rounded out with some cards to enable the Seismitoad, like a enhanced hammer to make it so you can remove an energy attachment while also requiring them to attach another energy card with the Seismitoad's ability. And then the Palafin being enabled with a plethora of switch cards. We have the Surfing Beach, have a Switch Raft, you've got Guzma, Bird Keeper, the Scoop Up Net, just ways to get guys in and out of the active, so you can, if you can get that Palafin to survive, ideally with the Pot Helmet and the Lux Cape, you can do that attack over and over again. So yeah, that's pretty much how the deck works. Low energy variant of water, the Frostlass requiring 1 energy to attack, and the Basket Legion also requiring 1 energy to attack. So I love this deck. This is my pet deck that I've been playing forever. Yeah, but I mentioned water's my favorite type in GLC. This is just by far my favorite deck. So set out to play in this tournament with this deck, and I'll go ahead and just go through my run real quick in this and let you guys know how I did. So round 1, I played into Hunter, one of our locals who also decided to play in the tournament. There were 3 of us in total from Full Grip playing in the tournament. This was Hunter's first online tournament, and it was pretty funny because we were just sitting in a Discord call before this and then paired into each other round 1. So he was asking questions about how the online tournament works, hadn't used Limitless or anything before. And so I was like, well, I'll just walk you through it and talk you through it and show you. So um, in
And
this
then you
game,
gave him the
Hunter was
hands.
playing, and I gave him the hands. I did not show any mercy. So in this game, Hunter got set up well, was able to use the fan rotom and stuff. He was playing the uh, oh, what's it called now? I can't remember. The lazy
Slacking?
code. So it's slacking. So it's the crazy code ability on slacking, and or the crazy code ability on Porygon Z, and the lazy ability on slacking. Porygon Z accelerating as many special energy as you want to your Pokemon and play however you'd like, and then the slacking with that lazy ability. If it's active, it shuts off all your opponent's Pokemon abilities. So lazy code being Hunter's name for the deck. So in this matchup, Hunter started, like I said, he got the fan rotom off, um, and got his board set up pretty well. I and then his following turn, he was able to take a knockout with the fan rotom while putting parallel into play.
Mm-hmm.
And he had already used his artisan. So my response to this, I was able to use a field blower to remove the only stadium, and I had to play to rare candy into my Seismitoad, requiring 1 extra energy to for his Pokemon to attack. And the fan Rotom, with both his stadiums down, no longer able to attack, and so he needed to be able to switch a Pokemon to the active and have an additional energy attached to it. And though I couldn't attack with the Seismitoad, it just simply sitting there while I manually attached to it over the next 2 turns was enough for me to run away with the game.
Yeah.
Hunter also did use Town Map early and revealed to me that his Porygon and Porygon Z were prized. So no additional acceleration plus a Seismitoad just meant that it was going to be a pretty lopsided game from the get go.
Dang. Dang.
Yeah. So yeah, won that game. Round 2, played into a medal list. I need to look at this list here and see, because I played 2 medal lists. I can't remember which one this was. This was the Turbo Metal list. Yes, so it
Yep.
was the only evolution of the deck being the Bronzong, and the Heatran style build with the fire energies. So just a very turbo build, trying to get guys powered up quickly. Was able to start that Skarmory, and I used Basculin this game to fill up my board. Unfortunately, Basculin being a very low HP Pokemon at that 50 HP, so Skarmory here having the Metal Arms attack that does 40 more damage. If it has a tool attached with a base of 10, meaning it does 50 damage. So any tool would have taken the knockout on my Basculin. So they were able to take an early knockout, but allowing me to get into the turn 2 rare candy Seismitoad, which is what you want
Oh
to see with the deck.
gosh.
So Seismitoad hitting for that 120 base that first time, taking the knockout, and leaving my opponent with just a Heatran with a single energy on the board.
Oh man.
And I'm like, I have never felt more comfortable in a board state position in my life. For my opponent to then um, uh, they had the 1 energy, and then they in hand they just had the Crispin attach and Metal Saucer, so they fully powered it up and doing 160 damage, and
It's more
then
than enough.
attached their Fighting Fury belts
Oh
with
snap.
with a 10 damage buff. Played the Field Blower from their hand to remove the Luxcape that I had put on my Seismitoad,
Oh my
and
gosh.
just responded. And I was like, I don't know what to do now. And so I was able to get up. I think it was just Inteleon after that with my own Field Blower and no, it wasn't Inteleon. It was the Palafin. I was able to get the Palafin with that 210 damage, being able to just clear that. And then
Yeah.
from there, my opponent just wasn't able to get an attacker set up.
Yeah. Dang,
And
that's
then just left.
crazy. I mean,
Yeah.
being able to respond to the not only you getting the Seismitoad up so fast, but them being able to respond with the 1 Pokemon in play is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, did want to talk
Yes.
quickly about this Skarmory because I didn't even know about this guy until actually played against the same player as you like the week previous on
Mhm.
Metal, and he was playing the Skarmory, and it did work. Yeah, I don't know. I wasn't aware of it before. Like, were you aware of it before? And if you weren't, now that you are, what do you think?
I was aware of it, and it's definitely a card I overlooked. It does similar things to the Zacian that I've played in my own metal list. Zacian being boosted with the amount of bench Pokemon you have. I like the Skarmory because it's a little less reliant on you getting a full board setup and just simply needing that tool attached. So if you're
Right.
attaching the Muscle Band or the Fighting Fury Belt, you're boosting that damage a little bit more to take knockouts on those little guys. So it's cool. Uh, Muscle Band causing it to do 70 damage is taking out like all the setup guys. So
Yeah, and the fighting resistance isn't nothing for the metal deck either. So,
sure, you
uh,
love to see that.
yeah. So I kind of like this guy. I feel like if I was playing, a Turbolist right now, I might give it a shot. Yeah, if you didn't know about the Skarmory, now you do. But yeah, anyways, we can get into your round 3.
Yeah. Round 3 was once again another metal deck. This one was a little bit more of not less turbo, more setup deck, with the having not just the Bronzong but the Revavroom and the Archaludon as evolution Pokemon in the deck. Still a Heatran build with the fire energies. This was kind of an unfortunate matchup. I was able to get into my Cryogonal early in this matchup, while they had a Zacian active. And Zacian, being a metal Pokemon, does hit Cryogonal for weakness. And so my opponent did have the means to just start attacking with Zacian into my Cryogonal, but I got a pot helmet out on it, so it was only doing 30 instead of the 60, buying me a few more turns of that item lock. And it was revealed in the end. My opponent ended up just scooping this match after I item locked for a few turns because I was they weren't able to do anything. They had a Pokegear in hand, but no like other supporters to play. So like they were just like not able to play that while I was item locking and like fully setting up, just like
Yeah.
showing that I had plays to get Seismitoad up the next turn and everything. So they scooped, and this game was short. So the power of
Hmm.
Cryogonal and item lock prevailed in this one.
That's right.
So then we make it to round four, which I see I there was only three O's at this point, and so I was like trying to figure out which one of those I was going to pair into, not thinking, oh, I might get the down pair, not paying any attention to what those decks were at that record, realizing I was about to play into lightning was a little
Right.
scary with my water deck.
Yeah.
Um, but this version of water, I feel like I feel a bit more comfortable with than like a hydro pump version into lightning, because you do have the annoyance of the seismitoad, which can just, even if you're fighting against weakness, can be a lot for decks to be able to just power up their guys. So um, this deck is cool. It's one of those that we've seen. It's not the exact same one that I've seen before, but we've seen these styles of the magneton and the electrode. Um,
Yeah, it's like the
Lightning decks popping up.
bombs. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So they're like blowing themselves up to be able to set up your board or accelerate energies. The electrode gives your opponent a prize and knocks itself out, but it turns itself into, it's a double lightning energy. Am I right?
Yes.
Yeah, it turns itself into a double lightning energy to attach to one of your Pokemon. So just really good, just way to get energy in play there. And then the magneton, popping itself to be able to search for three supporters, really just kind of that turn lets your opponent do whatever they want. So
Right.
um, my opponent didn't have the best setup throughout this game. I don't remember like the exact details. I just remember like they popped electrode and magneton at varying times, and I was able to gust the target that they popped the electrode to, because
Mm,
they didn't attack with it right away. And so I just like chased the energy down. And they were kind of feeding me prizes to set up. So it's like if this deck isn't like popping and taking the first knockout, and it really struggles to keep pace because it is giving you prizes. So
right.
that's kind of how that game went down.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think the Seismitoad is tough for it. And then, yeah, popping the electrode and then not using it, especially when you play E-Hammer as well, you could discard the, you could even discard the electrode, which is funny. But yeah, it's just ran into trouble. I did see some of that game I watched, and yeah, you kind of just snuck ahead a little bit, and then there was nothing they could do.
No. So yeah, squeaked away with the win against Lightning as water. Always feels good. So it was a 4-round tournament. This was technically the end of the tournament, but two of us were at a record of 4-0. Myself and Turbo Blaze's own Lee Hoffman. Lee Hoffman playing the Harambe style colorless deck that Alex won with a few weeks ago at Full Grip Games. Um, and so, us being the only ones at 3-0, and this being a tournament where there are badges on the line for this, we kind of wanted to see a winner. So, we played a finals match. Um, Lee, on his first turn, was not able to get a fan Rotom, and I believe his only supporter in hand was Hex. And I was able to just get my Seismitoad up and just kind of run over Lee. And that was basically the sum of the game. He just couldn't get set up without that fan Rotom to get going. And viable supporters to play the game. He did get back into it. He did have a very cool turn where I had Seismitoad active swinging. He was able to attach his double turbo energy to his Cramorant on the Cramorant turn, and then get the Postwick, the Hops Band, and the Hops Lax in play. With all those buffs and the extra energy, even with the reduction of the double turbo energy, was able to take out my Seismitoad. But at that point, I was just too far ahead. And so I ended up going 5-0 in this tournament, and winning it, and yeah, claiming a badge in the Turbo Blaze tournament. We joke that the Turbo Blaze guys, sometimes show up to full grip and squeak a badge away, and so it really felt good to get in there and kind of get a little payback.
Give them a little taste of their own medicine. Yeah, call it the
Exactly.
heist. Yeah.
Yes, they were. Yeah.
But yeah, congrats. Yeah, that was a fun. I watched the final match with you and Lee. It was a fun match. It was a very
Mhm.
interesting match, despite him having a rough start. Like, the fact that Cramorant is able to hit those numbers with, a single attachment plus the hops band getting around the Seismitoad ability and doing enough damage can be problematic for Seismitoad if Lee had been moving any quicker. Um, but yeah, he just had that play, and then he had Swellow on the bench with Muscle Band as well.
Mhm.
And one of your other main attackers is the Frostlass that damages itself. So it's kind of like almost bait if you want to swing with Frostlass at all, because you're just softening yourself up to give up 2 prizes to the Swellow. Was that going through your mind when you were playing?
100%. Yeah. Lee was definitely trying to get that Swellow set up, and basically, I ended up knocking out the Swellow once when it had the muscle band on the bench. Pulled off an E hammer on it when it had an energy attached. So E hammered it away, and then eventually like gusted it and knocked it up. I was so far ahead at that point that I had turns where I was like scoop up netting Drizzile and rebenching it. So I was like really able to do whatever I wanted. And every turn I was just prioritizing knocking out the Swellow. Actually, the turn that right after Lee took the Cramorant on the 4 prize turn, so it technically would have been live the next turn. I went out of my way to get Field Blower and Gust. So I Field Blowered the stadium and the tool. So Cramorant was doing like very little damage, and then gusted the Talo and knocked it out because I was like, I'm far ahead, but the only way back into this game is through a Swellow. So just yeah, that is definitely a threat on their board, and the way that this deck gets back into the game.
That's right. Yeah, and you properly recognizing that. That's one of my favorite things to do against colorless as well. Is if you can, is to go around the Cramorant twice, and like target someone else they're powering up or like a key supporter. Because if you can do that, then eventually Cram will be ineffective. So they can't even attack with it anymore. So if you're some for people out there who are looking for ways to beat colorless, if you can afford to go around Cramorant a couple times to target their support or other attackers, that's a way that you can either get yourself back in the game or keep yourself in the lead. So I thought that was a smart play from you. Um, but yeah, I do want to shout out. I already messaged Lee about this, and it's kind of I don't know if you saw this. You probably didn't see this because you were playing, but his round 4 match was streamed against SBO, and it was against Colorless Control.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and Lee had one of the the sickest plays I've ever seen. Um, so SBO playing this colorless control list with Stoutland plays a stadium called Shrine of Memories, which says each player's evolved Pokemon can use any attack from its previous evolutions, and it's in the deck so that you can use Lillipup's Retreat Lock attack while your Stoutland is evolved, because Stoutland has an ability that locks supporters as well. So that's the strategy there, but this was in play. Lee had a Swellow with Muscle Band on it and used Pidov's
Yeah.
Wing Attack for
Oh,
20.
Talos.
Yeah, use Talos Wing Attack for 20 plus the muscle band and strong energy to do 60 damage. And since it was
Oh
evolved
my
into
gosh.
Swellow, it did the extra prizes as well. Uh, so that was crazy. Like none of us saw it coming. I don't know if SPO saw it coming, but the whole stream was like, "Yo, that was hype," and I was like, "Dang, that was like such a heads up
What
play."
a
I was like,
Yeah.
I was popping off.
Yeah,
If you
I struggle to remember to use my opponent's like artisan on webcam because you just don't think about your opponent's stadium enough for Lee to recognize his opponent's stadium and play to be able to make this play. That is truly insane.
Yeah, like recognizing the stadium, recognizing that your Talo, your own Talo, which you like basically never attack with, is doing just enough damage with the muscle band and strong energy, um, and can get there with only one attachment because the Swellow had no energy on it when he played the escape rope, right? So he stacked
Mhm.
escape rope strong energy, and just with one attachment to Swellow, wasn't doing enough to knock it out thanks to the shrine. It was crazy. It was a hype play.
Yeah, that's a Hall of Fame play right there.
Yeah, it was awesome. I recommend. Yeah, they stream for you guys watching. The Turbo Blaze guys do stream those Friday night tournaments on their YouTube channel, Turbo Blaze GLC. So if you want to go check it out, go check it out. You can
Oh,
watch those games and John's games.
yeah, I do have one last comment. So I mentioned the bounty system at the beginning, and I said I abandoned all hope and decided not to build a deck that had a bounty involved. And at the end, I didn't know this, but so they were asking questions about what qualified as certain types of Pokemon throughout the week. So there was one bounty that was a heart Pokemon and a Pokemon with an arrow attack. And so the organizer for this event was getting message throughout the week asking what things qualified for that, and it was determined that Finizen or Palafin, I don't remember which one has it has a heart. So it
Oh,
counted as
that's
a
right. Yeah.
heart Pokemon, and someone apparently asked if Aqua Bullet counted as an arrow attack, and it did. So I played a deck that had an arrow attack and a heart Pokemon in it, and I was obviously the highest performer with that qualification. So I did win the spin on the wheel for that. So that was just kind of a funny thing that by
And did you spin the
happenstance.
wheel? Did you? What did you win?
I did spin the wheel. I won a gold energy of some kind. I have to pick that out, and he's going to bring it next time he's in the full grip neighborhood.
That's so hype, man. Congrats on the 5-0 finish.
Thank you, thank you. But yeah, so I wasn't able to make it to full grip this week. Played in the Turbo Blaze tournament. Ben was our only one on the podcast that was at full grip this week. Ben, why don't you tell us how things shook down there?
Yes. So here at Full Grip, week 28 of season 3, we had 16 players. Like I said, Tony was there, but not joining us on the pod tonight. And Tony's return after like 2 weeks off of league did get his top 4 finish with the Dwagons, the Jet Blaze Dwagons deck. So congrats to Tony. But yeah, seeing the meta here, obviously 2 dragons in the top 8 once again. Dragons had a pretty good performance last week as well, with 1 in the top 8 after weeks of dragons just like not being present in the meta at all. It's just kind of like a deck people pushed to the side for a long time at Full Grip, but dragons are back in a big way at Full Grip Games. Psychic, of course. I don't know the last time we had a top 8 without a psychic deck. 2 of them here. I managed to get 7th place with my Grass Egg Mill deck. And you'll also notice Jack Martin at 5th, although he was bubbling out. He was a 3-1 performance as well with that same dark deck that we talked about last week. So again, another great back-to-back performance from Jack on the Grimsley's Move Dark deck featuring the Tyranitar. Yeah, go back and watch our last episode if you want to hear more about that deck and other dark decks. But, of course, Hunter Horek with the fighting RDT deck was able to take it home at 4-0 and win his 3rd badge of the season, moving into tying you for 2nd place right now in the badge race.
Yes.
Is there a 3rd person at 3 badges, or it's just you 2?
No, it's just I was the only one until Hunter got it this week. So yeah,
Right, so
congrats
congrats
to
to
Hunter.
Hunter. Yep, he's got fighting, colorless, and psychic. Yeah, he won with Garb.
Yes.
Yeah, so fighting, colorless, psychic for Hunter. Still has a lot of good types left. He's got water left. That's probably the most notable one. Interested to see what he'll run next because he's been running fighting for weeks now, and we'll get into his list and his thoughts on the deck just in a minute. But yeah, let's talk about, Tony isn't here today, but thought we'd share his list and a bit about his run. Yeah, what did Tony play
Yeah.
today, John?
Playing the Dwagons list. Took the list that was kind of popularized last week by our own Ben Beacock and Dylan running it, and took the list, and it looks like he made a few changes here. So don't. So I'll just go over Dwagons real quick. It's involving the new Dragonair that allows you to search for evolution Pokemon, and the Dragonite providing your Pokemon free retreat. and which is important when you're playing things like the Turbo Blaze, Reshiram, that allows you to accelerate fire energy to your Pokemon only, your bench Pokemon only when it is in the active. Also needing like that Tatsugiri in the active, so that Dragonite providing some free retreat support. Then you've got some other evolution dragons in the Garchomp line and the Rayquaza that also needs to switch into the active. So a lot of synergy there with that Dragonite line. Really, really cool, innovative list here. Main difference I'm seeing in this list that Tony played this week is the Kyurem. I think Tony did mention like he was noticing and anticipating a lot more Colress's tenacity in the room, and so trying to get a little sneaky there with the Kyurem. That Kyurem, if you don't know, has a massive 5 energy attack cost that allows you to hit for 110 damage on 3 of your opponent's Pokemon. But if there's a Pokemon with Colress in your opponent's discard pile, you can use that attack for only 1 energy. So a really powerful attack if your opponent happens to play Colress.
Yeah.
Tony did mention in his only loss to our champion Hunter that he was able to pull this off and surprise Hunter with this only after he was down 4 prizes in that game. So he was not. It's a strong card, but it's not a comeback when you're down 4 prizes card necessarily.
Yeah. He was down a bunch, and yeah, normally maybe you could try and sneak it back a win if you can cure him more than once, but I think Hunter said he wasn't expecting the Kyurem because when you're playing the Evo Dragons, there's even less room for it. So played the Colress, but right after Tony took the 3 prizes with Kyurem, Hunter went Karina for Versus Seeker just to get the Colress out of the discard pile. So then the Kyurem was shut off for the rest of the game after that. And
he hit undo.
Really, really. But yeah, it's one of those sneaky tech cards that maybe will catch some people off guard. Colress is played in almost every fighting deck. It's a great supporter for that. Some psychic decks might choose to play it because, stadiums and energy cards are really good. And I wonder if when we get the new psychic energy, if we're going to see an uptick in Colress's tenacity. So keep an eye out on those dragon decks because, psychic decks wanting to search out that telepath energy. Playing Colress, don't fall victim to the Kyurem. Always be on your guard. Yeah. So if have the Wobbuffet or have a bench barrier at least if you're going to be playing Colress into some dragons, because they can't silent lab to shut off your bench barrier because then it also would shut off their Kyurem ability, which allows them to attack in the first place.
Good point.
So bench barrier, you can play Colress, but only if you play bench barrier against the dragons. But yeah, so congrats to Tony for making a comeback and playing this hot new deck and getting a top 4 finish. So good job, Tony.
Yep. And Ben, you played Eggmill again this week. Why did you do that? Why did you do that?
Oh man, I just really want the Eggmill badge. The only other deck I've been really thinking of playing each week is fighting, and just really hasn't felt great. Like I've performed well with fighting, but it's like off of like opponents' misplays or like hoping to not hit like too many psychic decks, and there's just always a lot of psychic decks, so it's just not like my favorite deck to play. So Eggmill has been fun for me. Maybe not my opponents, but it's been fun for me. And I think it's a very strong deck, and it's not the deck in the room that everyone's trying to beat all the time. It's not the fighting deck that people are teched for, and it's not the psychic deck that everyone's expecting, right? So it's a little bit on the outside, maybe get a little bit of a target off its back, even though, most of the locals know that I've been playing it. I played it to a webcam tournament last weekend, and I went 4-1, so I had a pretty solid performance with it there, just to get some extra practice with the deck. And it's been running smooth. I still have some issue with it. Like it can just kind of lose to itself sometimes. Like you just don't have the best draws, and you don't find a supporter that can find you like your next supporter, and then you're kind of just stuck for a little bit. And also like user error. Like I'm still making mistakes, of course, and trying to find the best routes for every matchup. Yeah, I played it last week. I don't remember my record last week, but this week I was 2-2. Yeah, 2-2, 7th place. And I gotta pull up my notes. I have my notes over here. My one change to the deck this week was I put Shaman back in. I had cut Shaman last week, and then I got stomped by a Raging Bolt, which was really annoying. And I knew dragons are like back again. You know, Tony played dragon, Fran played dragon this week. I was just like, do I really want to? You know, that matchup's usually like pretty good for the Eggmill deck because they're so reliant on energy attachments. They barely have anybody that's able to knock out a Torterra. And they have a lot of heavy guys that can get stuck in the active, right? So usually a pretty favorable matchup for the Eggmill unless they can like get a really fast like Raging Bolt and snipe key pieces. And that's exactly what happened last week. So I'm like, all right, I'll put the Shaman back in. And of course, none of my matchups this week mattered to have it. That's always how it goes with bench barrier. But yeah, so round one, I played against Carpenter on the dark deck, and I had to draw pass with my what's his name? With my Deerling active, and just hope that Carpenter didn't have the donk. And he started Moltres also, which is a great sign. And he was just missing a tool, like a retreat tool, to get the donk. So I lucked out that he whiffed that. But since he whiffed the donk, I got set up right after that. I went into Budu item lock. I had Budu with Tool Jammer on it so that the Moltres was just stuck there. So that was sick. I was like, you cannot move this thing because it needs 2 to retreat. And so I was item locking. The only prize he took the whole game was a fully powered up Moltres active that had to swing twice into Budu because it only does 20 damage for 3 energy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. The Pokemon that does like max 270 in the late game, swinging for 20 in the early game, and a
Yeah.
little Badoo is
Had to
crazy.
had to 2-shot the Badoo with 3 energy on it, and Alex was not having a good time. He was not a happy camper, but I was laughing. And Torterra just swept from there, really. Like I, was by that time I had set it all up. The item lock with Vileplume. I gusted his Guzzlord that he was getting set up behind the Moltres. It was nasty. Round 2 though, I had a loss versus Peacock's Garbodor deck. I prized like several key, like nothing like too key, but like when I got down to my final 3 prizes, they were like all 3 pieces that I like really wanted to see. So that was just like kind of unfortunate for the way the matchup went. And then I had there was another moment where his Field Blower was prized, so like my Lux Cape was like safe on my Torterra, and he had swung into it. He had 190 damage on it after a Iron Boulder and a Frillish attack. And I used Acerola, picked it up, and put it right back down with Force of Vitality. But I had to, like, since I was ahead in prizes, I would need to 2-turn attached to it to attack. So I went in with my my Venomoth for a turn to like item lock confuse his active. And I did not put back down my Lux Cape that turn because I was like, I can hold this for another turn. Like I don't need to play it right now. And he, in his like 4-card hand that he had been, not doing much with, he had like the final energy attachment to his Mewtwo plus Fighting Fury Belt plus Guzma to do 190 damage to knock out my Torterra.
Wow.
Yeah, so that was like, I was like, oh my gosh, that was like the main thing that like could basically like just swing the whole match and like get him back on. And he bumped my Force to Vitality at the same time. So like all these things right after I had like just picked up the Torterra, I was like, oh man.
Yeah.
So that really put me on the back foot, unfortunately. And yeah, from there I was just kind of scrambling to like hopefully like stall something or like make him whiff an attack with Iron Boulder. And unfortunately I just couldn't do it. He just managed to find the pieces he needs after that.
Yeah. Luxcape's a tough call, like when to put it down, because it's like you want him to have to 2-shot, but you don't want to give up 2 prizes if you don't have to. So like if you think there's a chance that like, well, I might not get knocked out in 1 hit, you don't want to just give them an extra prize on a 2-hit. So that's a tough
Yeah.
call.
I was mostly just gambling that like he didn't like even if he had the gust, like oh he probably doesn't have like the damage buff also. It's just like
Hmm.
he just had each piece, in his hands to do it all. Unfortunately, and I just got punished for not putting the Luxcape down again. Because knocking even if he did end up two-shotting my Torterra after that with his boulder, like if I had just been able to knock out his Mewtwo at all and leave him with just a boulder as an attacker, it would have just made my life a lot easier when I go into like the Executor or something else to like
Hmm.
hopefully stall out. Like it's much harder for him to continuously swing with boulder than it is with Mewtwo, right? So
Yeah.
um also do want to say, so you weren't here, but you didn't you didn't see this drama. So
Uh,
after round one, Peacock won, and he was laying out his deck, and he's like, "I don't have U-turn board in the deck. Like, where's my U-turn board?" Like he had an extra energy in the deck instead of U-turn board, and round one was
oh,
already over, and apparently Heather told him that he could swap it out.
Heather.
I know. Heather told him he could swap it
What?
out after round one, and I was like, "What the heck? That's crazy." Um, and so I pair up into him, and then he had a terrible hand going first or going second. Like he did not have much to do, but he had U-turn board like Natu Zatu and like Professor's Letter to like start swinging with his Necrozma pretty quickly. And it's like if he didn't have U-turn board, like he would have had to take at least one extra turn to retreat his Zatu. So
Oh
I
my
was like,
gosh.
Judge, like what the, but I feel like my loss was because of illegal judges at full group,
Yeah.
cursed illegal judges at full group games. Um,
Ben Peacock playing with a 1-card sideboard for that night is
I
crazy.
know. Yeah, I got scammed big time. Natalie, I'm tattling on Heather right now. How could you allow this to happen to me? Nah, it's fine. Like if he had asked me, like I probably would have been like, yeah, whatever, to play the U-turn board. Like obviously it's supposed to be in there, but the fact that it like wasn't there, and then was necessary in his open hang
Yeah.
hand to like,
Immediately relevant.
yeah, I was like, there's no
Yeah.
way, bro. Like you need to be punished. So yeah, that was my round two loss. Round three, I played against the Wochien deck, and I went second, and I item locked until the end of the game. That Badu into a couple turns into Vileplume, and my opponent had to play Ball Guy. That's their one supporter they had in their hand, and just had to hold the balls after that. And I just Torterra swept like no
Oh man.
attacking it was happening on their side of the board, unfortunately. Um, and then so I was 2-1. My final round, I don't even remember. Oh, it was Jack on the dark deck, and he just got going like really fast. Like I thought, he had like a low card hand early after using Call for Family on his Toxel. So I was like, okay, I'll go into Badu here and hope he doesn't have like an energy in his 2-card hand to like knock it out with Spiritomb, because that would be bad. And he had that, and then Spiritomb from there is just able to take so many knockouts because I'm like scrambling to like evolve my guys at that point. Um, and Spiritomb can just keep powering itself up and stuff. So he he was just doing a lot of damage quickly, and then I had a turn where I whiffed my whiffed an energy I needed to attack with Torterra after like an Iono. Um, but I still left Torterra in the active because I was like, well, I can't really afford to go behind another prize, and I don't think he can kill my Torterra. And I Ionoed him to like 3, and his Spiritomb had like 3 damage counters on it. Um, but he had Arvin in hand, and Arvin for Hustle Belt plus
Mm.
1 more on Spiritomb is exactly 190 damage.
Holy cow.
I
Holy
know.
smokes.
So that's like 2 times last night or on Thursday where I got punished for putting my Torterra in a vulnerable spot that I didn't need to put it in. So that's my own fault. Again, like learning the deck, you make one small mistake like that, and it'll cost you the game with this deck. Because it's you're working so hard to build like the ultimate board state. If you whiff that ultimate board state, you're probably going to lose the game. So it's a very punishing deck. But it's fun. I don't know. I don't know what else to play.
You're lost. What badges do you have right now, Ben?
Just psychic and water. Like I like
Okay.
playing
Yeah.
colorless, and like since Hunter got his fighting badge, Hunter was the only fighting deck last night. Now he has that badge. Like a lot of people are off fighting. Like colorless can definitely easily make a resurgence, which is what we saw Chase do. Did I even put Chase on the? Did I forget to put Chase on the slide? No, I just didn't mention him. But Chase got 3-1 with the colorless deck. Um, the Harambe deck that we've talked about already tonight. Chase has just been on a killer streak. I think he's got like first, second in the last 4 weeks. Um, yeah, and unfortunately, his only loss with the colorless deck was Hunter found him in the final. Uh, Otherwise, Chase probably would have run away with a third badge in 4 weeks. So Chase is
Yeah.
kind of the goat right now at League. But what I was gonna say is now that Hunter's out with the fighting badge and a lot of other people have their fighting badge, colorless is a great choice, and it's a deck I do enjoy. Um, I don't know if I'll pick it up though because it does suck when you do hit the one fighting in the room, and I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, things are changing as decks win. Like a fighting win is one less fighting in the room, and I was noticing we got plenty of psychics on the board too. So it's like things that you weren't even considering playing. You know, 10, 12 weeks ago. It's like things have changed up, and it's not the room it used to be. There's a lot of blue, a lot of purple, a lot of fighting on there. The decks that people aren't playing anymore because there are badges with them. So you have to take that into account and it gives smart players the chance to kind of be ahead of the curve and notice what's not available to players and what's no longer a threat to the decks that they want to play. So like, yeah, I think you're right. And that colorless can really start squeaking in there.
Yeah, yeah. And I think now that I'm thinking about it, like the main reason I like playing the Eggmill deck right now is because like between my next two best options of fighting and colorless, I actually think the Egg deck has the best psychic matchup out of all those.
Mhm.
Just personally, I just like how it plays into psychic, and uh, you know, obviously I lost to Peacock this week, but I've had many times where it's gone the opposite way, and if I just like find the pieces I need, it's very doable for the Eggmill deck to beat a psychic deck. And yeah, it's just like when I think of other decks I want to pick up like colorless or fighting, it's just like I just don't want to play those into psychic. Like psychic's just so good right
Mhm.
now. They've just got all the tools to deal with everything. It is pretty intimidating to go up against, and it makes me envious because I already have my psychic badge, and I wish I was playing psychic because it's so good.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
But yeah, so that was my run with the egg mill deck. We'll see what happens next week. Week 29, maybe running back. It's funny to see how mad Carpenter gets when we pair. I was Carpenter like his. I know his two decks right now are like dark and fire, right?
Mhm.
And I'm playing grass, and we pair round one where you could pick any deck still, and I'm like, we were going back and forth. I was like, what is he playing? What are you playing? No, what are you playing? Like, I was trying to like make a deal. I was like, want to flip a coin to pick decks first, like instead of like turns, like who picks their deck. Um, and then we were like, we'll just have to. I was just like, no one was biting. We're like, we just have to lock in blindly. And I locked in Eggmill, and he was like, he locked in Dark, and he's like, you're lucky I didn't want to take the time to switch Pokepad over.
Yeah, the round one shot call is like a crazy, crazy meta decision, meta call you have to make when thinking about your opponent, especially going up against Alex and knowing what limited card pool he has. It's an interesting strategy decisions being made there.
Yeah, it's like the one person I don't want to see because it's the one person who probably is playing Fire. Um,
Right.
but I called his bluff, and we got there. But yeah, so that was the grass deck. Hunter with the RDT fighting deck. Like we said, going 4-0. His matchups were, well, let's talk about the deck list itself real quick. There's a couple changes to the base RDT list here if you look closely. Um, one of the main ones is that there's no ball guy in the list. He also cut the Team Magma's Great Ball. Because of that, has Earthen Vessel in there. I think that was like his Pokepad space. Getting an extra Pokemon search in there, and maybe forgoing the supporter Pokemon search to maybe hopefully rely on the items a bit more and being able to play a different supporter. But yeah, what other changes are you noticing?
Yeah, so he cut the ball guy there, adding in a little bit of extra recovery. So he does have the Lana's Aid and the Clara in there, so able
Mm-hmm.
to recover Pokemon and energy from the discard pile a little bit more efficiently there. Um, maybe use something like that Blood Moon Ursaluna a little bit easier. That's a card you see early, and you always just kind of want to have it be discard fodder, get it in the discard pile because that's where you want it to make the play. With the Clara, with the Lana's Aid.
Yeah.
So making that play a little bit easier there. Adding that recovery into the deck. The other slot, not necessarily a change specifically in Hunter's list, but the flex slot I always like to pay attention to in these RDT lists. You've got the four stadiums. You've got the Brooklet, the Artisan, and the Training Court. The fourth stadium seems to kind of fluctuate between deck list to deck list. Martial Arts Dojo in this one, allowing you to do a little bit extra damage. Sometimes that spot's Silent Lab. I've even seen it be Viridian Forest, I think, allowing you just another energy search from the deck. So people trying out a few different things there. Hunter landing on the Martial Arts Dojo. I like the Martial Arts Dojo, especially into matchups like Psychic, where there's a lot of resistance and you're struggling to, get over those numbers. You can put that in play. Maybe last multiple turns instead of having to use cards like your Premium Power Pro, your Fighting Fury Belt, your Muscle Band to hit those numbers. So, yeah, those are the few changes in the list that I'm seeing right there. Anyway.
Yeah. Otherwise, it's good old RDT with the same Pokemon lineup of Lucario, Okidogi, Tinglu, Ursaluna, and the rocks to back him up. But going into Hunter's run, he played against Dragon, then into a Grass, Wochien, then into another Dragon, and then into Colorless. So pretty favorable spread of matchups for Hunter, I'd say. No Psychic in his run, so looking out on getting past all the Psychic decks that were in the field to get the badge at 4-0. And Hunter says that he has played 5 weeks with the RDT deck now and has an overall record of 16 wins, 5 losses, and 1 tie. So very impressive positive record from Hunter with the fighting deck. He also says with Psychic hard teching the matchup with things like Cresselia, it feels borderline unwinnable if you're not, running them off the board with Soul Rock or Tinglu and them missing the Cresselia or a quick Okidogi. Like you really need to speed up so fast and overwhelm them. Otherwise, it's just such a tough matchup. Hunter of the opinion that Marshadow is one of the most broken Pokemon in the deck, and that the Ursaluna is like the worst Pokemon in the deck, which is kind of a hot take. Maybe this should have been submitted a couple weeks ago on our hot takes episode, but I'm of the opinion of like the opposite, and we talked about this a little bit. That like I almost want to cut. I usually want to cut the Marshadow and keep the bear. But he says in the 22 games he's played with the deck, he's only attacked with it 3 times, and it's only taken 2 KOs. So, while that is true, I trust that what he's saying is true. I don't I don't know if I think maybe he's not playing it right.
No, this feels like a matchup dependent take, honestly. Like if you're looking at his matchups that you see here, Dragon not necessarily so much, but like Grass and Colorless, like the Marshadow's like, yeah, the Marshadow's broken into Colorless.
Yeah.
The Marshadow's probably pretty good into Grass, being able to like gust and knock out like the Roserade and the the Sawsbuck, with like that lower HP, it can get over those numbers and have invincibility for a turn. So like if the rest of his 16-5-1 record looks similar to this and not much psychic, like yeah, Marshadow probably feels great, but Marshadow is just not that guy into psychic. If you're playing psychic, you Marshadow can just go away. You don't really get to use it too much. Ting Lu, on the other hand, is a really strong card. If you can happen to, if you're playing psychic, if you can get the spread off, or not, sorry, not Ting Lu, the bear is a really
Yeah.
strong card. If you use the Ting Lu to spread damage, and be able to take knockouts into like psychic, if they don't, because not everyone's playing the crest. So I don't, yeah, I don't, I think this is kind of a matchup dependent hot take, because it's
Yeah.
if it depends on what you're playing against. I think that's why both of them are in the deck, because it really depends on what you're playing into, that you're going to use one or the other.
Yeah, I think those are the guys that like you don't necessarily use every game, but when you do have a moment to use them, you're usually glad that you have him, right? So like that's why I haven't cut the Marshadow yet, is because when I do use Marshadow, I'm like, well, I'm glad you're here. But I do find the bear to be a little more useful. It's very synergistic with the Ting Lu. I know I've not played nearly as much as Hunter, but the games I have played, I think I've probably used the bear a lot more than he has already. I think it's probably just player preference and, like you said, matchup dependent. Hunter is a good player, so he's probably not, missing all these lines where he should have played the bear. He's not like that. He's probably just playing the deck more in a style of playing towards routes that don't rely on the bear. Is probably
Yeah.
my take on that. But I think the bear is good, but if you don't want to play towards the bear and you don't need the bear, cut the bear and put in a good card that you will use.
Yeah. Tell us in the comments. Are you Team Marshadow or are you Team Bear?
Exactly. Um, yeah, yeah. I'm Team Marsh. I'm Team Bear. I'm cutting that. If I'm playing Marshadow again, I'm cutting that Marshadow. But yeah, Hunter, big fan of the Marshadow, and congrats to him on winning with the fighting badge. He's made more changes in the RDT list than I've been brave enough to. I'm not much of a deck switcher, card switcher. I kind of just like, if I take someone's list that is proven pretty good, I'll maybe switch like one or two cards. Um, so unless it's like I'm trying to build something completely new, but Hunter taking RDT on a 4 or 5 card different journey and finding success with it. Um,
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah.
congrats to
Well done.
Hunter.
Well done, Hunter.
Another fighting badge on the board. Yeah, we were just looking at the badge board. Let's take a quick look at how the deck types themselves have been performing. Psychic and fighting by far have the most badges currently. The psychic. Oh, I clicked on the wrong. I clicked on the season 2 badge board.
Yeah, I was like,
Here's
something
this.
doesn't look right
I was
there.
like, yeah. Here's the season 3 badge board. And looking at season 2 badge board, I was noticing Psychic only had 7 badges. Psychic already has 8 badges this season, so even more than it did in a whole year last season. That just shows you, power just keeps going up, and I think just people are getting more experienced with it and seeing its power. Not that it's like way more powerful than it was before. It's just been very honed in on what it is now to, it's just become a very streamlined deck. Fighting
Yeah.
at 6 badges, water at 5 badges. Those are the top 3 performing types. Psychic by far the most popular deck in the room. But now that you were kind of touching on this earlier. We've seen, this many badges from these types. That means, this many people are not playing those types each week. So that does shift our meta each week. And, like we kind of talked about, colorless and dragon were pushed aside, I think, through the Phantasmal Flames and Mega Evolution format. But now, with more badges and Ascended Heroes coming out, dragon and colorless are making a return. And as we get to the 3K, where the badges don't matter, people can play whatever they want. Do you think we'll see the continued increase in colorless and dragons, maybe? Or are you expecting them to fall back behind fighting and psychic?
Something that I feel, I don't know, it's sort of kind of feels like it changes, week to week, or maybe not even week to week, but like people will be on a deck for a couple of weeks and then want to switch back. So like I feel like we're at a point where we're kind of going in these like 2 or 3 week cycles where people will be on something and then switch it up for a little bit. Like when I was looking at playing colorless, I was like, okay, realistically, how many fighting am I going to play? And I was looking back at like the last few weeks for like the first week that I played colorless, and fighting was just like there was like 4 1 week, and then 1 1 week, and then like three, and it was just kind of like back and forth and that sort of thing. So I think while people are getting these badges and going down to these other decks like colorless and dragon and stuff, they're kind of like swapping evenly between those, and so like there's a little bit of even fluctuation. So I see it like I don't see them like going away, but I see them like maybe like shifting back and forth with each other sort of. We have some players who are like we've got some people innovating with dragon right now, so I don't really foresee you know players like Dylan and Ben who are working on that dragon list swapping off at any time soon necessarily, maybe for a week here and there. But like I know Dylan's been playing his 60 on the psychic for like a long time, and he's just like tired of that. So see,
Yeah.
it depending on the player. Some players like to stick to a deck and kind of grind it out. I mentioned I'm someone who tends to like to do that, and I'm sort of trying to force myself to switch it up like that and stuff. But
Hmm.
I see it ebbing and flowing a little bit, but not any type completely going away. Like I think there's just going to be a higher. There might be three colorless 1 week that are like three dragon another week, or we'll see people wanting to play like the grassless 1 week. So I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think you're right. Between at least fighting and dragon, it's kind of like old card, new card syndrome. It's like, RDT is the same as almost the same as it's always been. But dragon, just got the new dragon air with ascended heroes and the new, you know, this new build with the jet cruise dragonite, and it's just kind of like, I've a lot of players who have tried to get their fighting badge for multiple weeks and haven't got there. Uh, Hopping over to maybe something newer to try out and get some reps in with, and just to have more fun. Even if it doesn't end up in a badge on any given week, it's a more fun experience overall to kind of like not be beating your head against the wall trying to get the fighting badge all the time, which is sometimes how it feels. And there's always so many psychics in the field as well, so that's the other. You're always beating your head against the psychic decks with the fighting deck, and that can feel pretty bad. Um, yeah, it's just like a natural meta progression. I think you're right. But yeah, when we do get to like the actual 3K and we see the badges go away, it's an open field. People can play what they think is the strongest. I'm not sure if we'll see fighting make a resurgence again at this 3K, especially with how much psychic is expected and how rough that matchup can feel at times. But then if you're expecting fighting to fall off and you cut techs like Cresselia and Bench Barrier, there's plenty of room for RDT to do well against. So it's
Hmm.
this really big back and forth of
Hmm.
like, what are you going to take a gamble on? Like, are you going to cut the Cresselia Bench Barrier and be like, I'm not going to play against the fighting deck, uh, and hope you don't, or are you going to keep them back in just like to hedge your bets and stay safe from anyone who's back on the RDT package? Will be interesting to see.
Yeah, making a call for what you can't tech for everything, and making a call for what a room's going to be like. Not just we're talking about the 3K coming up. Not everyone's coming to the 3K. Whatever you know local open field tournament. There's no badges on the line. You can play whatever you want, whatever you're attending. Um, you can't tech for everything. You got to kind of predict. Know your player base. Know who shows up to these things and what they like to play, and what kind of just call your shot. Predict what you think they're going to play and what you don't need to tech for, and lean more into consistency with that, or lean more into teching for something else. That's going to be kind of your strength in these games is your prep work beforehand. It feels especially true. It's true in standard, but it feels especially true in GLC.
Yeah, absolutely. It's anybody's game right now. It's a fun time right now, and I like to see that some changes in the meta in our local. It's nice to not every round be fighting and psychic, to get some diversity in colorless and dragon, and the occasional metal deck, and we have our grass warriors. Shout out Michael Prieto. Um, there's some diversity in our meta. No one's played lightning in a long time. Maybe it's time to bring that back. Who knows? But that does it for like our meta recap. We were supposed to talk about this at the beginning, but we didn't. The no bans tournament that's going on. Uh,
Oh yeah, I forgot
John,
all about that.
yeah, John and I are playing in a no bans GLC tournament. We talked about this, our round 1 match last week on the podcast, and this week we played our round 2 match. And we don't have to discuss much, but I'm just gonna give the highlights. John and I both won our matches. John is now 1-1, and I am 2-0. John, with his colorless deck, played against another psychic deck with the Blacephalon, Dusknor, Misdreavus, Mismagius. Just give a quick, how was that matchup for you?
Yeah, this one a little bit different than last week, allowing me to play my first turn of the game. It was cool. Instead of trying to go fast and donk, this deck sort of tries to, um, pop Blacephalon on the Blacephalon turn, and then use cards like the standout cards in this deck are like the Hiker and the Chip Tip Ice Axe to uh, and Lieutenant Surge's strategy to be able to, pop your guys, play the Lieutenant Surge, either like hand disrupt, top deck manipulate, play the Hex Maniac or whatever, and stick you on the Blacephalon turn, which was really cool. Like I said, like Ben said, I came out on top and won this, but 2 of the games I was just kind of forced to play into that Blacephalon turn. Like I'm like, well, I just need to take a knockout here, and I know they're going to be able to pull off the Blacephalon next turn, and just kind of brace for impact. So a really strong controlling deck that can board wipe more in the mid game than the Donk Dusclops deck did that I played last week. So I liked it. It was definitely more fun to play against, and still pretty impressive. Like I said, I had to just kind of like let them have the Blacephalon disrupt turn
Yeah.
twice. There wasn't really much I could do about it. So again, a deck playing Blacephalon into my deck with like the regular Snorlax with the unfazed fat, being able to protect that was can be a big advantage. But was able to squeak out 2 games against this. They did take 1 off me. We did go to a game 3, but definitely a cool deck.
Yeah, congrats going 1-1. And then my match, I played against actually Ghouls, who beat John round 1. Ghouls is playing that Duskull Donk deck that wants to win, going first, popping Dusknor a couple times, or Dusclops a couple times, spreading with Blacephalon, things like that before you get set up. And luckily, I was able to clutch it out. Game 1, I don't even remember the games. I won't get too far into it, but game 3 is what it came down to. And I happened to have 3 basic Pokemon in my opening hand: Wobbuffet, Mimikyu, Ralts. So a little extra HP for him to get through on his turn going first. And he actually managed to set up a board where he popped Dusclops 4 times going first, and flipped 2 heads on his Rocket Bomb. So Rocket Bomb plus 4 Dusclops was 240 damage, and I had 250 HP in play. So he was 10 HP short of my Wobbuffet that had 110 HP. He was 10 HP short of winning, going first, popping Dusclops 5. Like, if he had been able to pop Dusclops 5 times, he would have won. But luckily, I avoided that and was
The
able to set up.
insanity of popping Dusclops 4 times on the first going. You said he was going first and did
He went
that.
first. Yep, he went first.
Like that's I imagine with this deck, like I'm like, okay, going second, like popping Dusclops like maybe 3 times is like pushing the limit, but like going first and popping it 4 times is just sounds like ludicrous to me. Like it makes me wonder like what is like the upper limits of this deck? Like how many times can you pop things turn 1 or turn 2, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, it intrigues
There's
me.
theoretically a combination of cards where he could have popped Dusclops a 5th time. There's enough recovery in there to do it. And going first versus going second, the only difference between that and this deck is just that you can't attack, because the only supporter you play is Carmine, which you can use on either turn. So
True.
everything that you want to do on your second turn, you can also do on your first turn outside of attack. But yeah, he set up Deathclops 4 times. He held the fourth, like he didn't actually pop it the fourth time because he didn't have the route to actually close out the game. But
Hmm.
yeah, like imagine, imagine if I had more Pokemon. He did pop Dusclops 4 times and Miss Magius. I would start my turn going second, first turn with 1 prize remaining.
Oh man.
Isn't that? Yes.
God bless the ban list.
Yeah, seriously, crazy, crazy deck. It was, not the most engaging matchup, of course, but it's a little bit fun to watch it perform. Um, yeah, I got the win there, and
Oh.
we should note that I think there's 5 people playing. There was 5 people playing the Duskull Donk deck. It's the most played deck in this tournament, and they all have lost in either round 1 or 2, so none of them are 2-0 at this point. None of them will become the no bans champion after 4 weeks. It's an incredibly powerful deck, but it's very, through no fault of my own. It's not like I outplayed the deck. The deck outplays itself. You either win or lose on your own. It's the
Yeah.
epitome of not being engaging. So this week the deck just chose to lose to itself, I guess, and now they're all they're all out of contention, unfortunately.
Well, congratulations moving up to 2-0 and taking one of those out.
I'd see again. Like I feel like I didn't even take it out. Like it took itself out. I just watched it
True,
happen.
true. True, true.
Um, but yeah, last up, we can move on now. That was the no bans tournament. Last up, we had a couple card reveals a week or 2 ago, and just thought we'd address them real quick. This is from the Ninja Spinner Japanese set. Uh, when is it going to come out? It will release on March 13th in Japan. And we have the starters. The Gen 6 starter Pokemon were revealed. And let's just go over them real quick.
So we got a chestnut here. And Pokemon Pokemon just doesn't really like this guy, unfortunately. So Chespin, or not Chespin, Chestnut final form is 180 HP stage 2 grass Pokemon, has the ability Needle Armor. If this Pokemon is in the active spot and is damaged by an attack from your opponent's Pokemon, even if it's knocked out, place 3 damage counters on the attacking Pokemon. We've seen this ability a million times before. This one on a Chestnut. The impound attack
We have not seen this
doing,
ability a million times before.
haven't we? What am I
It does
missing?
3 damage counters per grass energy.
Oh, did I read that right and just uh think it differently in my head technically? Each grass energy attaches. Okay. All right. Well, maybe it's not as bad as chestnuts in the past then. Sorry for dogging on it so hard. So yeah, all right, load a bunch of grass energy onto this guy with your Cherim, double the energies with Venusaur Totem and Venusaur's Totem, or um what's the new one?
Meganium.
Meganiums, and you can be just one-shotting guys without even attacking, I guess. The attack not as impressive. Does 160 damage, and during the next turn, the defending Pokemon can't retreat if you haven't already knocked it out because it's 160 damage. So I guess this card's not awful. Ben, how are you feeling about this card?
I think it's really cool. I don't think it's not going to be great. Theoretically, if you put enough energy on this guy, enough to knock out what's attacking you, it's almost a way to cheat prize cards, which is always good in GLC. Um, I'm just thinking it has 180 HP, which is pretty high for a lot of things to hit. But imagine like a Mewtwo swinging into you with Limit Break. If you have 4 energy on this guy, plus like a Rocky Helmet or like a Ping with like Flapple or something for 20 damage, 4 or 5 energy on this guy, you're knocking the Mewtwo out, on the return KO with its ability, while also doing a respectable 160 damage. So again, it being in grass might not make it that feasible to pull off. It's another stage 2 with a basic and a stage 1 that aren't doing anything. It's got 4 retreat cost. There's a lot of negatives as well, of it being in the grass pool, but I think it's a cool ability. It's, like I said, not something we've seen much of before. I think it's cool that it exists, and maybe someday it'll do something.
Maybe.
But other than that, we got the new Delphox, which is very reminiscent of an older Delphox. Unfortunately, the basic and the stage 1. Well, the basic has Call for Family, so that's great. Stage 1, just a generic 80 damage attack. But the Delphox has the ability Magic Flare, which says once during your turn, you may discard a basic R, which is fire energy card, from your hand in order to use this ability, and then you can draw up to 7. So, very impressive draw at the cost of discarding a fire, drawing up to 7. That's as good as Professor's research. And it's got the Energy Storm attack for 30 damage. It does 30 damage times all energy attached to all Pokemon in play, both yours and your opponent's. So pretty high multiplier, especially if you're playing things like Emboar or Charizard to double energy cost, double your fire energy in play. Pretty high output damage. But yeah, it's very, like I said, it's reminiscent of an older Delphox that has the mystical fire ability, which allows you to just, without any cost, draw up to 6. So what is your comparison of these two?
So as an attacker, clearly the new one is better. That multiplier is the best form of the energy in play multiplier. It's counting all types of all energy on your in play, both yours and your opponent's. Whether or not you want to be attacking with your support Pokemon on the bench, that's another story. So the main difference here, the need to you do get one more card with the other Delphox, and you are discarding a card from your hand in that fire energy. So it's like you're technically able to draw even like an extra. It's like one you're drawing one more, and you're getting rid of another card out of your hand
Yeah.
for the draw up to. So it's like it is better draw. The thing that I don't like about these types of discard to draw effects is that you need to have that energy in hand, which can be a lot sometimes. The strength of these draw up to cards I think really shines when you get hand disrupted low towards the end of the game. And when that happens and you don't have that energy in hand or access to that energy, all of a sudden you just don't have draw on board because you can't use this ability.
Yeah.
So my thoughts is, if I'm using this purely for support, I'm gonna go, even though it's a little less draw, I'm gonna go with the other Delphox. Use this new Finnegan that we got with the Call for Family. Love to see that these basics getting these good attacks. But I'd still want to, and we don't even see that Delphox being used too much currently. So
Yeah.
this is different. Not necessarily better. I would even argue maybe a little bit worse because the other one's just the no condition draw up to 6 is just more versatile.
Yeah, more flexible and more brick proof. You get Iono to 1, you want to be able to fill that hand again. And,
Mhm.
late game whiffing energy is very easy on that Iono to 1. So if I was playing one of them, I would definitely play the older one. So it is a bit disappointing to see that on this new fire guy. Unfortunately. But then we've got a new Greninja line. Not much to talk about for GLC because its stage 2 is an EX Pokemon. It's the Mega Greninja. Obviously not legal in Gym Leader Challenge. And then this Froakie and Frogadier. I don't necessarily know if either of them replace any of the older ones.
Do we have a 70 HP Froakie? Is this the first one?
We've got the 70 HP Froakie that has the Tri Bouncing attack. The flip a coin for 30.
Okay.
That's the one that's in standard right now. That's played with Greninja EX decks. This one has the collect attack for 1 colorless energy to draw a card. That's maybe a little better. Depends on
Mhm.
what you're trying to do. Draw a card's pretty good. The Frogadier does have a good attack. It has Calling Jutsu, which for 1 water energy allows you to search your deck for up to 3 Pokemon and put them into your hand. So that's like a pretty good attack if you're attacking with a stage 1 to set up, which, 1, ideally you're not doing that. And two, the other Frogadier that we have access to is one that pings 20 damage on evolution, which I would say is more universally, helpful in a water deck in terms of what a water deck might need than this Frogadier. When you're thinking of water setup attackers, you've got some of the best ones in the game with the Basculin and the Vulpix. You don't necessarily need to count on Frogadier to be the one to be doing that.
Right, and the two Greninjas that you see people evolving into from Frogadier are ones that are spreading some damage around on the board usually. So you're definitely the other Frogadier is leaning into that strategy of extra damage on the board.
Yeah, absolutely. So, of all these new starter Pokemon revealed, it's unlikely that any of them will see play or much, have an impact on the competitive GLC meta. Though they are cool. The trainer cards, on the other hand, are a bit better. What do we got?
So we got the big catch net, and I waited for a little while because I saw these right when they came out to make sure this wasn't a mistranslation because it's a pretty strong effect. The effect on big catch net is shuffle up to 3 water Pokemon and up to 3 basic water energy from your discard pile into your deck. This is Super Rod, but instead of having to choose between Pokemon and energy and which of limiting it to 3 total, you get to do both 3 of each, which if you're playing Super Rod in your water deck, this is just a strict upgrade. This is incredible. You love to see a recovery card as strong as this.
Yeah.
So yeah, Ben, what do you think of this card?
Yeah, it's super duper rod. That's what I jokingly call it. But yeah, it is an incredibly powerful item card, and definitely will see play in some water decks. Something I mentioned when these cards were first revealed though is, I immediately think of plugging this into like Hydro Pump, which is like the premier way to play water, or Milo Pump, and with those decks that are accelerating energy from hand, I always want, if I'm going to recover energy, I always want them to come into my hand. That's why you play Superior, and that's why Nessa is so good. So, like, shuffling back, like, those decks don't really play Super Rod, or if they do, that's usually mainly to get, Pokemon back, like your
Mhm.
Greninja line, or not Greninja, your Drizzile and Inteleon line, and maybe one extra energy for good measure. But getting energy to hand is where those decks thrive. And so, like, I don't know if I would even, depending on the build, I might see play in this, but it's not necessarily gonna spring. It's not like a card that you're like, this instantly improves every single water deck. Like it's really strong, and I think it's a cool card to have access to. But it might be better in your Seismitoad deck. Do you play Super Rod?
Yeah, I 100% do. So this is just strict upgrade for decks that use the super rod, but not an even swap for all form of recovery. But yeah, definitely might make you change or think differently about how you build your water deck there.
Yeah, pretty cool.
Next up,
Go ahead.
oh. We got the AZ's Tranquility. Switch your active Pokemon with one of your bench Pokemon if you moved a Pokemon. Oh wait, EX. Never mind.
Yep,
We could skip.
ignored.
Didn't see that EX clause. All right, so lastly, we've got the Bubble Energy. It is a special water energy. The water Pokemon this card is attached to recovers from all special conditions and can't be affected by special conditions. My first thought, there's nothing immediately I can think of that um, water has that's like inflicting special conditions on itself that this is preventing. But like, I mean, it does prevent special conditions from your opponent. I don't know. I don't think of it as better than either of the other special water energies that we have. There aren't really any. I mean, there are some decks that use special conditions, and like we looked at Dark the other weekend. Poison variants that this could just wall off a Dark poison deck. So, I guess maybe a card that in your specific meta, if you're playing against decks that use special conditions against you, you could throw one of these into your water deck. But other than that, not much use for this. I mean, it's another special energy that the deck has, searchable by like Goose Hollow and stuff like that. So something to think about there. But yeah,
Yeah.
nothing fantastic.
Yeah, it's cool to have another typed special energy. If you're playing like a special whales deck, it's another, you know, it's a third water type special energy you can add in.
Hmm.
The effect won't come up much in many games. When it does, it's nice. Like in the Egg Mill deck, Aromatic Grass Energy has this exact same effect, and I do see good use out of that. It prevents people trying to buy a turn. Because they're being locked. They're trying to buy a turn with a hypnosis attack or a monkey dory confusion. Things like that.
Hmm.
I can ignore that with the aromatic grass. So similarly with the water here, whale is one of the most tanky Pokemon. So there are situations people will try to cheese with a sleep or a paralyze or a confusion or something like that, and this just says no. So it's just a cool tool for water to have, but yeah, again, it's not gonna be an instant one of in most water decks. Again,
Yeah,
Psychic's still winning the special energy battle.
Yeah, and I think you just rather use its splash and then wash energy is the one that prevents effects of attacks, correct?
Yes.
So that's just doing what Ben was mentioning there and preventing the effect of attacks in confusion and hypnosis attacks already. So just like, yeah, if you need a third water energy that's a special energy in your deck, this would be your guy. But other than that,
Yeah.
I think that's it.
This is better for shock lock, and that's it. Because they're
Yes.
paralyzing you with an ability, not with an attack, and wash energy doesn't protect that.
Yes. Again,
Bubble
very
whale.
niche tech for your local meta specifically.
Right. If JD shows up with yellow sleeves, put this in your deck. So yeah, those are the new cards revealed. We'll probably get some more new reveals soon, as it is Pokemon Day this coming week. The big Japanese Champions League tournament is happening right now as we're recording, and supposedly there's new card reveals there. So next podcast episode, we'll have a lot of news to talk about, probably.
Yeah, for sure. Looking forward to those reveals. Hopefully, some good TCG stuff. But as Ben said, we set our expectations low and are pleasantly surprised if cool things show up.
That's right.
We also have a new idea for a segment we'd like to try called Deck Doctor, where you guys, the viewers, would send us some of your lists that you guys have come up with and been playing. Um, and we will in a future episode give our thoughts on the list, things changes we might make to it, and kind of maybe help doctor it up a little bit for you. We are by no means the experts in things, but we play a lot of GLC and we love the game and we love to talk about this stuff. So go ahead, start sending us some of your lists, tagging us on Twitter, DMing us, linking them in the comments. We'd love to start taking a look at these things on future episodes.
Yeah, I think that would be fun for us to do. Just if you don't have, the tightest local community, or you're looking for a place to get some advice, I think it'd be fun to talk about on the pod here. So, like John said, send us lists that you're trying out, or if you have specific questions of, or even if you have like a fragment of an idea, or like you really want to build a deck that's featuring Chestnut, the new Chestnut. Uh, you know, you can cook something up, send it over, and we'll share our opinions on it. But yeah, that might be something fun we do in the future. Um, we'll see. But anyways, thank you so much for watching tonight on the Gym Leader Chat Lounge, and please subscribe, follow us on Spotify, leave comments, give us a thumbs up. We really appreciate it, and we will see you guys next week. John, well, one more thing
Yes.
before John says the
Big
thing.
Yes, big shout out here. We mentioned we are needing to change up our outro, our catchphrase here. So shout out to our viewer, a brand of popes, giving us some ideas for our new outro. So shout out to him. And for the rest of you, we will GL. See you next time.